Hi, today we are going to talk about how to plant HIPPEASTRUM, also known as AMARYLLIS, to ensure that you get guaranteed bloom beautiful whenever you want. So first of all, I am going to refer to it during this video as HIPPEASTRUM because this is a correct name, despite that sometimes you can still buy it as AMARYLLIS. About 40 years ago, botanists agreed that it's not a part of the Amaryllis family, but it's a separate types of plants which will be called HIPPEASTRUM. So bearing this in mind, let's start. Now, first of all, when you plant HIPPEASTRUM, what you need to know is that size matters. Here I have a little one for about 2 centimeters in diameter, and here I have a HIPPEASTRUM which is 4 centimeters in diameter. So the blooms which will be growing from this one would be much bigger, much stronger than the blooms which will grow from this one. So the recommendation is to buy the biggest Amaryllis bulb if you want to have biggest blooms. Now, the second thing is before planting, I recommend to soak it in water. Many people just plant it in soil and put some water. However, because the bulbs that you dry were usually dried for several months, it will start growing much stronger and much faster if those roots will become soaked. So ideally you should soak for about 24 hours, but you can also soak them just overnight. Now, another thing to consider when you're soaking, that Amaryllis is very much prone to rot. So you have to be very careful with the water. And what I do, because rot is a fungal disease, I always add some natural fungicides, for example, hay bacillus. But it's optional, and if you just have water, and you can soak it in water as long as you do not overwater it later when it grows. So let's do it. Let's prepare this HIPPEASTRUM for planting. First of all, it's very easy to remove it generally because it was dried out. The only thing you need to do is remove this top, which is easily removed. Don't remove layers which are filled like this, but you can remove other layers because in these areas you can get some diseases being harbored, and try to remove as much as possible some of the soil. You can see that here it's very difficult to remove anything, so I will just remove it from the top without damaging the roots. I think we're nearly reaching the level where we can remove the soil. You see, you get all the roots here. So I think that at this point we can stop it and soak it in water for about 24 hours for it to come back to life. It is much easier to remove soil in water than when it's completely dried. So you see here I just dried it a little, I watered it, I soaked it, and then I very gently removed the remaining soil without damaging any roots. Do you see how big is the root system with the little roots remaining? You need at this point inspect all the roots to see if they are healthy or rotten. Like for example, you see here this root is a very piece sorry, here it is, dry piece of root, which you should remove. Just inspect all of them to see that it's healthy, and you can see all of them are very hard and healthy. So let's leave it for 24 hours before planting. Here they are, the plants that I had at home, and the new ones soaked, waiting to be planted. Now that the bulbs were in water for about 24 hours, you can see that the roots has become very firm and hydrated. So this is the one I ordered, and look at the bulbs which I already grew for a few years. Because I was very accurate removing them, I have a very good root system which would which would give me a bigger blooms. So it's very good if you try after the blooming to preserve your bulbs for the next season. And if you want to know much more about how to do it, I can record the video for you. To just leave this in the comments. So it's much better to preserve your own bulbs than to buy ones just because the roots are healthier. Let's plant. I like those terracotta pots because they are very heavy and sturdy. When hyperastrum grows, this flower stalk becomes very tall. It can reach up to 1 meter height, and with the flowers on the top. So if you don't have a very heavy sturdy pot, then it's likely that it will fall over. So if you can, I recommend using the terracotta pot. That they also help to prevent root rot. If you cannot, you can use usual pots, plastic pots, but then put it in some cachepot like this, so that it's inside. I will show you later, and then it still becomes very heavy and it's very difficult to drop the plant. I prepared soil for hyperastrum. It's just peat, loam, compost, and some vermiculite, but you can just use any standard universal soil. So let's just put a little bit in the plant and measure how we put it. So it would be something like that. When you plant it, you should leave 2/3 or even half of the bulb open, and when you plant, try not to damage the roots. What I didn't tell you yet is that when you take a pot, try to make the pot about 2 centimeters bigger on each side than the bulb. So once you plant it, just put some pressure slowly without breaking the roots in order to fix the bulb in the soil. Now that we planted it, just water it well to ensure that there are no air pockets. Wait until water goes through the pot and starts dripping. Like now it's not dripping, which means we need to put a little bit more. And wait. Once all water goes through the pot, you just remove the water from the pot and you leave it. Don't water it too often. Now that you soaked it, you just need to wait until it starts rooting well and growing. So what you need to do is when the soil on the top feels dry on touch, you just water it a little bit more. And in 4 to 6 weeks, you will have beautiful stalks of hyperastrum. And here you see all my hyperastrums are planted. Note that for plastic pots like this, I put them in a heavy white pot so that they don't tip over when they start blooming. I will show you how they bloom once they start blooming in 4 to 6 weeks. So subscribe in order not to miss this video.